Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Brenda Dettinger from BioPack, and I will be your moderator on today's webinar, Virtual Reality Simplified for non-programmers. This is part one of a two-part webinar. Today we're going to give a great overview of virtual reality and research, and then part two on February 8th will be how to set up an experiment. Before I get started, I have some housekeeping notes for you. Please submit your questions and comments through the GoToWebinar control panel. That's how you communicate with me, your moderator. I'll pass as many questions as I can on to Alex throughout the presentation and also at the end. When the webcam's turned on, if it looks small to you, you can resize it using this little gray bar right here. And then I just have a note about the frame rate. This is a heads up. So VR, the frame rate is 60 frames per second. And webinar tools are all 30 frames per second. So the VR video will look a little jerky, but let me just assure you all that when you're inside the VR environment or watching on your desktop, it's a very smooth video experience, but it will look a little jerky here on the webinar. Also letting you know that today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll send each of you a link once that's processed. And finally, we'll have a survey at the end of the webinar. Please complete that so we have your feedback and ideas. Now on to our presenter. We have Alex Dimoff. He is the product expert and head of sales for Europe. He's taught over 125 workshops on the topic of physiological data acquisition and analysis, and has been with BioPack for over 15 years. While at UC Santa Barbara, he was an instructor for the Advanced Training Institute for Virtual Reality and Social Psychology. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
All right, I'm going to make you presenter. Here we go.
Yep. Just a second. There we go. I think you should be able to see my screen now.
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let's set up over here. I see people are still logging in, but we'll just get going, and we'll try to go a little slow in the beginning. So that's the topic for today, and it's very important to consider that this is a two-part webinar. So in the second part, I'll be explaining how to do certain things. I will be mostly demonstrating what is possible in this first part of the webinar. So the idea here is to give you as much of an overview of features that make VR possible for non-programmers. So here is a bit of an overview for today. That's how the webinar is going to progress. We'll say a few words about BioPack and then challenges faced by non-programmers or somebody who is not very good at programming. And then I'll talk a bit about the VR system. And from then on, it's all hands-on or demos that are pre-recorded, but most of them are hands-on, real-time demonstrations. And then we have polls, so there can be little breaks in between. So let's go ahead and begin. Just a few words about BioPack. So currently there, I just checked today, over 52,000 publications with BioPack equipment. And over 99% of the top universities in the world use BioPack equipment. And here is a general overview of what we try to do at BioPack. Basically, we aim to provide complete lab solutions. So pretty much everything you might need for your laboratory. So that includes virtual reality, and the systems that we provide, they're complete solutions, meaning you get all the hardware, the software, head-mounted display with eye tracking, and support that you might need. And you can have this for one or multiple users. Now, VR is a form of stimulation, but then we have other tools for sensory stimulation. So we can have electrical stimulation, current or voltage stimulation. Then you can have somatosensory stimulation, thermal stimulation, so that you can have the sensation of cold or hot apply it to your arm, like shown in the picture here. Transcranial direct current stimulation. And then we also have olfactory stimulation, where different fragrances can be delivered. So imagine you see a pizza on the screen and you smell the pizza. And then we have different forms of media synchronization, specifically relating to virtual reality. It's all pretty much automated, so that, as you can see here, and you will see later on, the cursor in the physiological data is linked to the cursor in a recording of the first person viewpoint in virtual reality, or any other viewpoint for that matter. The point is then you can drag the cursor either in our software Acknowledge, which records physiological data, or in the media, and they're linked together. Now, likewise, you can also have a webcam recording a person as they're doing their experiment, and that can also be linked in exactly the same way. At the center of it, we have our Acknowledge software, which is very intuitive. It enables you to record many different types of data, many different channels, and actually even many different devices, all synchronized, all on the same timeline. It could be multiple people as well. And we have signal analysis routines that are specific to, for example, skin conductance, electrocardiogram, or heart rate variability, etc. And to make things easy, there are automation tools, workflows, and batch processing tools that make data analysis very easy. As far as physiological data acquisition, looking at biopotential signals, we can record all manner of signals: electrocardiogram, electromyogram, electroencephalogram, and so forth, and different kinds of sensor data. Here we can see, for example, from exercise physiology standpoint, looking at gas analysis and airflow, looking at force sensors, skin conductance, pose, goniometry, temperature. We have a new ring that we recently introduced that allows very easy wireless recordings of skin conductance, pose, temperature. And then we have ways to measure cardiac output, blood pressure, and what we call TREV, which is a measure that's very much related to cardiac output, also providing information about sympathetic nervous system activity, contractility of the heart, and so forth. And then we have eye tracking options. Today we'll be talking about specifically eye tracking in virtual reality, so using a head-mounted display. But also we have eye tracking glasses. So then in the real world, you can put those glasses on and you can track your gaze. You can use those same glasses on a computer as well and map the display to the eye tracking data. But also we have remote eye tracking solutions where you can have bars placed under a monitor, traditional way for eye tracking. For functional near infrared, and specifically for virtual reality, we have two different kinds of systems. On the upper left corner, you can see a thin prefrontal cortex sensor that fits under a lot of head-mounted displays. But then if you want something that can measure from pretty much anywhere on the head and with a lot more flexibility, we have MedAlop VR, which is a very flexible system. Here we can see it together with the Quest 2 HMD, and here we can see it within our projected VR environments. And last but not least, there's educational solutions where VR can play a part as well, but just by itself, our various educational packages provide complete curriculum solutions for many different disciplines, and they're extremely popular. In fact, here we can see one more educational option, which is the Prism environment. As you can see, the Prism environment, where, as you can see in this video, you have a projected wall, and you can have different environments in which you can immerse the students, for example, during training, in this case, during medical training. All right, so Now let's talk about challenges that people face when they're getting started with VR. And we have to think about the challenges first, so we can understand what I will be describing today, how it helps. All right, so when you're getting started with VR, a lot of people just don't know where to come. But we have documentation specific to the VR system. So if you just follow the steps, you can get started with experiments. And it may take too long to learn how to code. Well, we have templates, so you can just run them without coding, or if you want to change anything, it's already there, so changes can be very minor. You need 3D art, and we'll discuss multiple solutions that we have for that. You also need immersive media, and the immersive media, I'll discuss solutions for how you can grab that as well, like 360-degree videos and images. You also have to keep track of participant information and manage data. It's not enough just to put somebody in VR and have them experience something. As an experimenter, you need this as well. And there's some commonly used building blocks like questionnaires, ratings, instructions. And then also, most people want to log and interpret user movement, eye tracking, behavior, face tracking, physiological data. All right, so let's now address the VR experiment generation system that I'll be discussing today. What are the things that help non-programmers get going? All right, so first of all, we have a graphic user interface configurator. So you can choose to present different environments that are either 3D with 3D models, or they can be 360-degree images and videos. So on the left side, we have a configurator for presenting images and videos, and on the right side, we have the graphical configurator for presenting 3D environments and models. And within that, in fact, we can see options, additional options, like when you click inside an environment, you can make certain objects grabbable. You can make it so eye tracking fixations get recorded for them, and you can hide them or make them visible again. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail, but these are things that they just are there. You don't have to program any of that. We have also a tool where you can inspect 3D models that you, for example, find on the internet, and you can make some adjustments to them, like define areas of interest for eye tracking, or maybe even move around parts of the objects and the models to reconfigure them to your liking without having to learn full-on 3D software. There are tools for flexible experimental design. So we can actually use Excel sheets where you can define parameters for stimuli inside the virtual world, such as the size of objects, their positions, what objects are presented, etc. And then by just editing those instead of editing code, you can modify your experiments. Very important is to have wide compatibility with virtual reality peripherals and head-mounted displays above all else. Here we can see a screenshot of the drop-down menu of the software, where we can see all sorts of head-mounted displays supported. We do provide a default solution at the moment. It's the MetaQuest Pro, because it's quite most capable one at the moment, but it will work with other solutions as well. And it's also critical to have a large library, in fact, a growing library of templates and examples. Here we have screenshots from various environments, and a lot of what we'll do today is go through these templates and examples and run them so you can get an idea of what is possible out of the box. So I mentioned the importance of having 3D art or 360 media and video. Already, if we click here, we can see that in the folder on your computer, you have a lot of things distributed. So we have objects, 2D media, we have 360 media, We have different environments, avatars, and so forth. So you already have those. But of course, there's many more, right? And there's all sorts of workflows for getting models in. But I would say the easiest one is to use Sketchfab, where you can download all sorts of 3D models and just get them straight into your virtual reality world. Here, I just searched for classroom and I found a whole lot of objects which we can just download and bring into the world. But the way we do these things is for the second part of the webinar. Right now, I'm just showing you what is possible. And then as far as 360-degree media, there is a quite excellent library I recommend. So here is the link, and when you download after the webinar, the materials will distribute, you also have access to that link. It's a collection of 360-degree videos and pictures. You can think of it as an alternative to the IAPS pictures, but an immersive version of them. So another very important part is to have ratings, instructions, and feedback tools. So we have all of those, and we'll see some of these in action today. Data analysis capability. So for eye tracking, we can get information about total view time, fixation time, etc. For different objects of interest. We can get heat maps, and we can get also information about the walk path if you're walking in VR, head orientation and gaze. These things are just scripts, again, that you don't have to do anything to modify. You can just run. And then there are tools for putting multiple people in VR, which is otherwise a very complicated task. However, the virtual reality system is scalable, so you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 users. And in fact, you can go actually beyond that. And here we can see different examples, people in the same room, people passing objects to each other. And here we can see on the bottom 2 different viewpoints. On the left side, we can see one of the persons looking at the other one represented by this yellow avatar. And here we can see a third person perspective of the very same thing. So that's all great, but let's go ahead and run an experiment. So for this experiment, I'm currently connected to a wireless bioinomatics electrocardiogram module. It's under my shirt, so I'm recording ECG from myself just so you can see. Okay, so I'll start and stop it. This is coming from me. I'll go ahead and rewind this recording. Okay, so and then we'll go ahead and fire up the virtual reality world. I'll run it this time just in desktop mode. A lot of them I'll run either with a desktop simulation or with the MetaQuest Pro, which I have right next to me. But right now I'll run it in desktop mode so we can easily follow and I can explain. Let's put the acknowledge windows side by side, and we'll do something like this. So we can see both windows nicely. Okay. And in acknowledge our software, I'll turn on the event palette. The event palette can give you information about events that are currently coming in. So what will happen now is in the virtual reality software, we check this box here. So then markers will be sent to acknowledge in real time when interesting things happen. Maybe we look at a specific object and then a marker will come in. Also, the recording, you can pay attention, will start automatically from within the VR system. We choose the environment. This is going to be a shopping scenario. We have to find chicken nuggets. Okay, so we'll be inside a store and we have to find chicken nuggets. All right. We can have different trials, number of trials. We can change fixation times for how long we have to look at a specific object in the environment to have the fixation considered valid. We can inspect the environment, and we can see that it consists of lower shelf, middle, upper shelf, and chicken nuggets and chips. Now we can make certain objects, as I mentioned, grabbable. We can enable or disable tracking fixations for different objects. I will not make any changes right now, but I'm just showing you this capability. So you always have these options. You can record the screen and then bring it into our software. You can send markers. Yeah, and then we'll put in my information here. And then we'll put the participant ID, for which I will do a shorthand of today's date, and I'll put 001 at the end, just kind of arbitrary. And then we begin the recording. Now, watch on the right side where the markers are coming in. So now, if I look at the next shelf over here, it says middle lower shelf. Now I'll look in quotes because I'm just moving the mouse. Now it says middle upper, and you see a green little ball right in the middle. That represents where I'm looking. Now, if I'm wearing the head-mounted display, you'll see my eye tracking position. Now I'll look a little bit higher, and now I'm looking at the upper shelf. And on the right side, we also see markers come in. So if you pay attention, these little light bulbs pop up in the Acknowledge software. So I'll make another one pop up. So you see right here, there's a light bulb, and they correspond to different markers. Now let's scroll through the store. I'm not gonna go through the whole store. I know where the chicken nuggets are, so I will just quickly find them now. All right, so we have celebratory sound here. We found them, that's great. And now we'll finish the experiment. The moment we finish the experiment, we get information on total view time, mostly looked at the middle upper shelf, and time spent looking at various objects that were in the environment, like chips, chicken nuggets, and so forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our first poll now, and then we'll continue.
Great, Alex, thank you. Go ahead and launch that poll. So actually, this is a two-part poll, but we can only have 5 answers for each poll. So this is part 1, and then during the next poll, you'll have part 2, and you can select all that apply, multiple choice. And then while people are answering the poll, I'm going to take a question. A few of you asked this actually during the registration process. How can you add physiology signals? You were just showing Acknowledge, like EEG, EDA, EMG, etc. in VR.
So basically, that's kind of what we just did during this demonstration. We used at the same time Acknowledge and in the virtual reality software. So everything is connected together. But I will later also show how we can go the other direction, how we can use the physiological signals to drive a biofeedback capability in the VR software. So we'll show it as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
Great, thank you. So I'll share the results of the poll when I get the results from poll 2 as well. So I'll go ahead and close the poll, and then back to you, Alex.
Okay. So we did the 2 parts of the poll already, right?
Oh, you want me to do the second poll right now?
Not the second poll, but I mean, it's a total of 10 application areas, right?
Okay. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and launch the second poll then. Here we go.
Yes. So basically, just from all of these in the previous ones, choosing which ones.
I'm sorry. This one was select only one. So looks like we're getting a lot of academic other here. So we'll go ahead. You can just chat to me if you'd like, if you're wanting to select more than just one option there. Okay, so more people are answering. Okay, so tons of people are saying academic other, and I'm really curious about what that means. So please send that information to us in the chat or the question pane, so we can incorporate that into future presentations. I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. One of the reasons why we asked this question is as we're growing the library of templates, knowing what people are mostly interested in, getting this feedback from you during the webinar is valuable for us, and then immediately then for you in the future, because we'll have more relevant examples.
Yeah, I see these answers coming in, so thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the poll, and then I'll share that we had a lot of people, 3/4 of people in perception, cognition, and neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience, and that was equal to academic other, with a real mix of a third probably on all the other categories: social and personality, psychology, healthcare, education and training, kinesiology, computer science was a little bit lower, and then academic other, as I mentioned, was pretty high. We've got small percentage in the other industrial, architecture, defense, and games. So I do see your comments coming in. I appreciate that. So thank you all for clarifying. A lot of psych here, haptics, sensory evaluation, food choice, that sort of thing. All right, well, great. So Alex, we'll go back to you for your presentation.
All right, thanks. So now that we've completed this, of course, this was just very, very short, right? But we need to keep things tight here. So next we can run this session replay. And that's a very cool capability that either in the desktop or inside the HMD, I can view what happened. So let's see, what was my number here? I think that's what I entered, right? Yeah. Okay. So we can look at all the data recorded from various participants, and now I can dynamically or statically, let's go for static, I can visualize my gaze path here. So that's what I looked at. So we can see here, I was spending time on different shelves. We can also look at like a heat map. Okay. So all sorts of information that you can explore. In fact, I can go inside and actually walk in here and in the world and observe the data. Okay, of course, that data is also available in a numeric format, but that makes it very, very useful. Now, let's come back here and do the next one. All right, so we'll go ahead here and open up another experiment. So let's go ahead and run it. Just one point to be very clear, again, how everything is organized. So all of this is a collection of various scripts, and they're written in Python. The point is that for a lot of them to run, you don't need to know Python. You can just click it and you can run. And then to modify things, what we're showing you today is what you can modify without even touching actual code, just making little changes, but other than that, nothing. So let's come back over here and fire up this one. And I'll tell you what this is. I'll go ahead and run this one. Yeah, let's run this one on desktop mode first, and then I'll also go in VR so you can see me with the HMD. But for right now, we'll just run in desktop mode. So what this one is a way of presenting stimuli that, and in this case, that somebody may have a phobia for, in this case, arachnophobia. Okay, so we'll be in a world where it's very simple. It's just going to be a table in a white room, and then on the middle of the table, there is either a spider or some other creature or something else altogether. They have to pay close attention to it, and you have to then respond if it was oriented to the left or to the right. The point is that if you're asked at the end whether it's pointing to the left or to the right, you have to look at it. You know, even if you have a phobia, you have to look at it. So the way that this works is it just looks for a folder where all of your stimuli are. Okay, again, how the stimuli get created is a topic for the second part. Right now, we're just going to run it. Okay, and let's go ahead and fire it up. So here we have a pen, and now we are asked, okay, was it facing to the left or to the right? So it was facing to the right, and we click. And now you see how the spider, it's not entirely obvious, but it's a little bit more to the right. So the point is you have to look real close and then click right. But you can also be unsure, and if you're unsure, you click unsure. And here's a funny one I just added, so we can keep it a bit more cheerful. All right, so this one was obviously facing to the left. Now I can make these selections also with my controller while I'm in VR, but I'm making them right now in simulation mode just with my desktop. Okay, so let me just jump into the very same world, but now I will be in VR. Okay, so I will put on the head-mounted display. And let's fire it up. Okay, so I'll run the world, but now I'll choose the MetaQuest Pro. Okay. And now I'm inside the world. I can change my relative position here. So you can see here that the difference is now that I'm in the world, I can look around the object, and we can do all sorts of cool things. We can set the starting position of the user so that they can be further away or closer. We can manipulate the size of these objects. Like these are things that we can't really do in the real world so easily. So this one is facing to the right. Okay, so here's this cute little spider. Okay, anyway, the point is that what I'm showing you right now is actually pretty much a complete protocol for running an experiment, and these are just bits and pieces that exist in the software, like the questionnaires and so forth. So these tools are pretty much automated, so you don't have to create the tools. So we just open up this media configuration. So you can see here what are the sort of things that you can change. Like we can change, for example, whether we're sending markers to acknowledge or not. We can make the stimuli show up on a timer or make it so that they're changed with a trigger. We can change the timer value. And here we can change the question. So the question is which direction was the object facing, so we can change it, and the answers as well. So all of the really important things you can configure, and then the only other part is how we created the stimuli, and that will be covered in part 2, and it really is very easy. Okay, so until part 2 comes around, you can just take my word for it. Now let's look at another one, which is a visual search. So I'll start with some of the more complicated ones because we don't have that much time. Like we have single objects that we have to look for, but I'll just do like multiple objects. And I'll go ahead and put on my HMD again because it's more fun that way. So, and we'll run this visual search. So what will happen now is I will be looking inside the world, and we'll have all sorts of objects, and I have to find the objects that are of different sizes. All right, so here it gives me some instructions, and we just go ahead and begin. So all these things just fall on the ground, and I have to find which one is a different size. So it's right here. Now, of course, I can also navigate in the world. I can look around, but yeah. And I have a tool, a highlighter tool, that allows me to just look at the object. Okay, this is the guy. So I'll just go ahead and select it, and it asks me how confident am I? I'm pretty confident, right? So I just will choose 10. All right, so I'm very confident. And then it proceeds again. Objects fall down, and there's my guy, right? So, okay, and this just keeps going for the number of trials that you selected. All right, so again, we have a configuration file for this one, and just look at the configuration file. We have the number of trials. We have 3 trials, number of objects, and then we have the sizes of the small or the large objects. Now, I can make this task really, really difficult by making the size differences very small. But right now, they're very dramatic because we're doing this via the webinar platform, where you don't get the benefit of high resolution that I get inside the HMD. But anyway, we can set these parameters right in here, and then also we have what I mentioned before. It's a stimulus file, so it's different kinds of objects parameters. So we have like the small and the large, but we could have other differentiators, like we could have like medium size or something like that. All right, so we'll go to the next one here, which is something that I actually showed in one of the previous webinars. So we're coming back to the main folder, and we'll run this program called Scilab VR. I'll just double click it. I'll run this one in desktop configuration. Okay, I'm going to skip sending markers to acknowledge. You've seen it, it works, and also the screen recording. I'll show how that works in the second part, but we can capture the screen. I'll just go ahead and run it. Let's get the Jeep model, and we can always click on configure over here, and you can see inside the 3D model what are different components that we can have fixations for, or potentially we can grab. But we're going to be inside the car, and this is an example of how we can look at ergonomics and how easy it is to find stuff in the car, etc. All right, so we just click continue. Again, I can enter some information here like that, and then I'll enter some sort of random ID over here. And now I'm inside the car, and now I'm looking at the left mirror, for example, and in the bottom left of my screen, you see gaze fixed left mirror, okay? Now I'll look at the rear view mirror, and the program knows that I'm looking at the rear view mirror. Now I'm looking at the instrument panel, and then looking at the radio and so forth. Different parts of the car are basically areas of interest. These are very, very easy to create, okay? Again, how it's done, this will be something for the second part when we go into that. We can always jump into the session replay, do it in desktop mode, choose this latest file, and it will bring up the environment where we were in. And oh yeah, of course, you have to select the correct file. Well, never mind, you've seen how that works, but we can always run the session replay and bring up the environments from before. So the car one is, you could think about this in many different contexts, doesn't have to be a car. Now, here is another one where we have a car again, but now we're driving a car. Okay, we're driving a car in virtual reality, physiological data is being acquired, and but we are using a 360 environment. Okay, so that is also an option. And here we show you how we can place these regions of interest, right? So these little green boxes are regions of interest. So those regions of interest can even be outside the car, not necessarily inside the car. Okay, now let's go and drive in the city, but let's go ahead and drive in the city in VR. So I'll go ahead and put on my HMD again. So you'll see what I see, but I'll have a completely different experience because I will be inside the virtual car. Right, so now I can drive a car, and by using my controller buttons, like I can go backwards, like forwards, backwards, and when I'm driving, I can turn around. Okay, so yeah, you can have a driving simulator. Now, you can change the car, you can change the 3D model, but the point is that the actual driving simulator is already written for you. Okay, so this is another example that already is a part of the package. Now, here we have some real-world applications that customers could use this VR experiment generation system for. For example, here, this is a study on understanding aesthetic experiences in museums. So, for instance, looking at artifacts in the museum and then looking at them in VR. It's a study by Duke University. So the link is available here. I'll just click it right now. You can afterwards, when we share the slides with you, you can review and you can go and read about these things. And then let's go and look at another one. This one is Maastricht University. It's a home healthcare training scenario. So they've used the system to actually use the pupillometry for measuring cognitive load. So the eye tracker can also provide information about the size of the pupil. All right, well, let's take our next poll so we can have a bit of a break before continuing with the next demonstrations.
Great, thanks. I'll go ahead and launch that poll. Tell us what you're planning on doing with VR. And while we are running this poll, I have a quick question. Is this system compatible with the Quest 2?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also a few people have asked about fMRI. How does it work and integrate with fMRI?
Yeah, so for fMRI, we know of a couple of manufacturers that have ways of getting the video inside the MRI. Sometimes it's actually mono, but there's also systems that can do stereo. So I think if you're interested in that, you should just contact us. We can provide information, and then also we can record physiology inside the MRI as well. So this makes it very interesting. Pretty much all the signals that we have outside, we can do inside the MRI.
Okay.
It's possible. It's possible to do VR in the fMRI.
Okay, so there's more questions that have come in. We're going to save those for later, so be patient. And I'll just share with you all the poll results. Primarily, people are interested in doing both 3D and 360 video. All right.
Okay, well, that's definitely very interesting. Okay, well, then that's where we'll transition next. We'll have a bit of a mixture now in the next part. So for applications, this is something that people associate with a lot with virtual reality. It's like a fear of heights scenario. We have another one of the templates that comes as a fear of heights. Okay, so we can see here the fear of heights one, where we can record physiology while the person is. We can see here like the person is represented only by their head because that's all that was being tracked, and then we can see where they looked in this pit, and then they fall down. Okay, so we can provide information on that as well. So I decided not to do this one as a live one because I need a bit of space in the office. It's a bit tricky during a webinar, but that's another demo or another template that that you get, so you can just use. Now, 360 media, whether it's video or images, since so many people are interested in it, I'll make sure to show you in a little bit more detail, but basically you can do both. You can do 360 images and 360 video. So here we have a video of that, but let me just show you. So again, I'll just go ahead and let's see. Let's just go ahead and open up the 360-degree right here, 360-degree version. So I'm just going to run this in desktop mode right now to save time. I'm not going to put on the HMD every time. All right, so let's begin with an image, stereo image, and we have a bunch of them that are already provided. But of course, you can capture your own with a 360 camera, and phones are now becoming more capable of doing that as well. But there's cameras that we recommend, so you can capture your own. And then there's the Louver library that I recommended a little bit earlier for this kind of application. So I can bring that up again. What's very important is not just immersing people in 360-degree media, but also have some sort of fixation areas where they'll be looking at. So you can see how they looked at salient parts of the stimulus. So right now, I have these fixation regions made visible, so you can actually see them. So let's go ahead and run this. So here we are, and we have our gaze point represented by this green dot in the middle. So now I'm looking at different sort of fixation regions, like this human, there's a car, there's a trash can. Okay, so like different fixation regions inside the 360-degree media. And you can do the same thing for video. So, and then at the end, we're finished. And when we finish, we can always go to the session replay. Okay, and same as with, but I'm gonna use just a sample that was recorded because I did not enter my name. So we can see here now, okay, so we can see in real time what happened. So when the person was looking around, we can see their heat map and so forth. So, okay, it's very, very user-friendly, and then we can change it around. So now we can do a 3D video. Let me just jump inside the MetaQuest Pro. I'll go ahead and run myself in this. So, okay. So this time around, we'll choose video, and we'll go inside a warehouse. Okay, I can make these regions not visible, right? So that's how it usually would be. So we continue, and we're inside. So now I'm inside this warehouse, and you can see that I'm looking around. And of course, as I'm looking around, my gaze is tracked. So we can see, am I looking at the guy who's, you know, almost about to run me over? What am I paying attention to? Okay. So we have the capability to also run the videos, and both for the videos and the images, if we come over here and we'll look at the settings, we can see, well, we can see here actually for 360-degree videos, for 360-degree images, we can have these fixation regions, okay? So you can define the size of these regions, the colors like red, blue, green, and have their names. So this is, I guess, a little bit closer to coding, but it's not really coding. You just have to change the position where those are, and you can have different regions of interest. Again, the how-to, we'll go through that in the second part. Okay, so I have to keep going so we don't burn too much time on a single topic. Another thing that's very cool that we can do in VR, ironically, is present 2D media. And you're probably wondering, why are we going to present 2D media in VR? I mean, well, there's a very good reason for doing that. So if you're in VR, and I'll just go ahead here and yeah, let's just go ahead and run like this 2D screen one. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so now jump into VR with the MetaQuest Pro. Okay, so I'm watching a video, okay, and I could just as well watch the video in front of a monitor, but in front of a monitor, I can't do that. Have like a really huge screen, you know, and also I can change very easily the environment where I am, and that can change the experience of viewing this media. Okay, I can change my relative position to the media. So maybe you're in a virtual movie theater and you want to check what is it like to look at the video from different positions. You can control everything, right? So the point is that with virtual reality, you have a lot of control. And finally, you can use the eye tracker inside your HMD now on that media that's being presented on the screen. So in fact, I can do experiments that would otherwise require a standalone eye tracker. Now I go in VR, the resolution is absolutely great, and I can do an experiment inside the virtual world. So that's not to be underestimated. Simply presenting on screen, but in VR, is quite good. You can have distractions around you or no distractions, lots of options. Let's look at face tracking. That's something that's possible with the MetaQuest Pro. And so I have to put it on again. I'll just fire up here the face tracking. So the MetaQuest Pro. All right, so what you see on the screen, and I'll try to go a little bit closer to this display so you can see better, are, let me just maximize it as well. All right. I'll go a little bit over here so you can see the brow lower, right? So I'll lower my brow right now, okay? And you see how it detects that. And I'll raise my brow, okay? And I'll smile. And then you see here the corner pore, okay? I can do things like move my lips. You know, it detects everything extremely well, okay? But why is this interesting? It's not just so we can move those sliders left and right. All that data about different parts of your face moving, that can be saved, and you can save it as a CSV. You can actually bring it alongside your acknowledged data afterwards. So if you want to see how much you're raising your eyebrows when you were watching, when you're immersed in something exciting, well, that can become available inside along with your physiological data in the acknowledged software. Now let's look at another very cool option. Again, it's the hand grabbing. So I don't have to use the controllers in this particular scenario. So what I'll do is I will actually use just my hands to grab objects, okay? So I'll maximize the screen over here. All right, so there's different objects here. So I just grabbed an object with my hand. You see, it's just my hand. There is no controller, and I can use this to push an object down, push the other object down, and then I can reset them again, and so forth. Okay. You don't want to be always holding the controllers. It's more natural when you're not just holding the controllers. So there's actually a very good hand tracking module that's operational. Then we also have a virtual mirror. So let's fire up the virtual mirror over here. Okay, so we'll run that, and I'll put on the HMD again, okay, for the virtual mirror. Now, this is intended for me to be standing up, but I'm sitting down right now, so the camera can catch me. So it's going to look a little bit weird, but you'll get the idea. All right, so let's maximize the screen again. So here I am, and I'm waving at the audience. Okay, I'm moving my hands, and it's tracking me, and I can open my mouth. As you can see, it knows it. I'm smiling right now, and it's basically doing body tracking as well as facial tracking, lip syncing, and you can imagine the implications of having this technology available to you, because now we can have two people interacting. We can change it so that I look like somebody else. Like we can change my race, color of the skin. We can change the gender, height, anything. We can transform the way people interact. And we also have tools for creating avatars that look just like you. And now, this is a nice capability. Using the built-in physics engine, we can actually toss an object inside virtual reality. So I have to put on my HMD again. And this time I'll use my controllers. Okay. And what I'll do is, there's an object right here. Okay, there's a little box. Okay. So I'll grab it, and then I'll toss it. Okay, so it landed like right there. Now I'm gonna go take it and toss it again. All right, so tossing an object by itself, I mean, that's cool. But it's really interesting for other reasons. Some of you may be aware of the cyberball experiment in virtual reality, where people have to they play a game where they pass objects to each other, and to evoke social exclusion, we can have it so that the other agents stop passing the objects to them. Well, now you can play a very, very realistic version of that. So you can have like either cooperative or competitive or exclusive kind of situations in virtual reality with realistic physics to make everything a little bit more realistic. Let's take our next poll at this point.
Let's go ahead and skip this poll for now and just continue, since we're getting up over the top of the hour here. And I will run that poll number 4 when we get to that section.
Well, we have 2 more polls actually. Okay, all right. So anyway, let's go to another application here, which is glaucoma. Let's just run this. You can use virtual reality to essentially make it so that you can see the world as if you had glaucoma. This is not a good example of a model. Everything's kind of black. So let's just change the model to something else. So we'll choose this one. All right, so we can see here now the sort of visual impairment that you would experience if you had glaucoma, or you can think of it like as a way of introducing all sorts of manipulations to what people see in virtual reality. So you can go beyond that now that you see this as a possibility. Let's look at biofeedback here. As I mentioned before, we can configure the system so that physiological data is driving the virtual reality. In this case, I did this a little earlier today. I'm connected to respiration, and then we, in the virtual environment, have a ball that goes up and down in synchrony with the respiration. So it goes up, the color changes to green, goes down, becomes blue, goes up, color changes. So it's another template you can use to implement biofeedback inside your virtual reality scenarios. Okay. And also gaze-based interaction is possible. Here is an example of gaze-based interaction. So things can change in the virtual reality when you look at them. So one easy way to do it is by changing animations of avatars. So when you go online and you download an avatar or an object with animation, you can then have it so that it reacts to your gaze. Okay, so here's this cute little creature, right? So I'll look at it and it will smile. Okay, so I can go a little closer so I can see what happens. So I look at it again and it smiles. And these chickens, actually there's only one chicken here, the chicken gets animated when I look at it, and only then. That's another template. So you can immediately start making more interactive environments. I'll skip this one in the interest of time, which is just about adding areas of interest to a 3D model. Let's just go straight to the multi-user options of the system, and then we'll come back if we have time. So here we have a setup where me and my colleague Swav, we're in the office, and we're both putting on our virtual reality headsets, and then we are recording physiological data at the same time. You can see the screens. We're inside the same virtual world. We're waving at each other. Okay, so we can see each other and waving at each other. And we're also interacting with different objects in the world. So you can have multiple users. If you want the eye tracking analytic tools working, you can have 5 users, but in fact, you can do many more. Okay, so let's go to, this illustrates the point that we can also be both local and remote. So you can have multiple virtual reality users inside your environments, and they can be in geographically separate locations connected over VPN. Here we have an example where we are collaborating in VR. So we are both able to grab certain objects. For example, this basketball is grabbable, so we can both grab it. So one of us grabs it, brings it to the other user, and the other user takes it. Now, to make this happen, you don't have to do anything in terms of coding. You just select which object is grabbable by the users, and that's it. And then we have other interesting options to help with multi-user experiments, like we can look at gaze intersection. So we have different users looking. You can see here, 2 users are looking at the same object. We can see the viewpoint of user 1, viewpoint of user 2, and then an aggregated view of both of them. So we can see when different participants are looking at the same time at the same object. That can be very meaningful information. Now, in this particular example, we have shared gaze. So when we're looking at shared gaze, right now, we can see here, 2 users are looking at each other, or actually not yet, they're looking at each other in a second when the yellow one looks at the other user. So we can detect shared gaze as well. Okay, let's go back to the beginning over here. And we also have capabilities for mixed reality, which some of you may be interested in doing. So if we run this mixed reality world, it requires for me to show to you, I need to fire up a couple more tools to run the mixed reality. So what I'll do is I'll suddenly I'll be seeing the same room via the cameras on my headset, and then let me just go ahead and allow connection to the device. Okay, and so now you'll be able to see exactly what I'm seeing. So we'll click over here so you can see what I'm seeing. All right, so now you can see exactly my view. All right, and then we'll go back to the virtual world. So mixed reality, we'll fire this up. Okay, I'm going to run this MetaQuest Pro. All right, so now you can see what I'm seeing. So this is my office right now. Okay, this is my office right now, and inside I have an object. It's like a virtual object. So I'm manipulating this virtual object while I am observing my real world environment. Okay, so it's like a pretty huge object, right? Okay, and I wanted to show you this, okay, because it's it has very interesting implications. I mean, if you're interested in doing mixed reality, let's say somebody's afraid of spiders, well, they can have a spider appear on their actual desk, okay, and then you have to grab it. So it makes the experience so much more immersive. All right. Okay, well, I think we've covered quite a bit here. We have a couple more things that we could show, but we can leave those for part 2, where we'll concentrate on the how-to aspects of how to create these worlds. Let's just do our next poll now.
Okay, so one thing we wanted to share with you all is that we offer the ability to do workshops at your site, and we've done several of those. I have a slide about that I can share with you when we're done with this section here. And you can host a workshop in your region at your site or attend a workshop. And we've had a great response, a lot of people interested in this sort of thing. So we just wanted to let you know that we do offer this, and the results are coming in. So we'll just let those results continue to come in for a minute. Oh, okay. So here I have another question. So I'm going to go back to the top. I know a lot of people have been waiting. So let's see. This is from Esha. Does BioPack need to sync with Unity, Unreal Engine, or are the templates isolated from game engines?
So this is all done with our own, VR engine. Of course, you can use BioPack equipment with Unity. We have a Unity interface for that, right? But Unity does not have a lot of the capabilities that our system has. So there's basically 2 different use cases here. You can use within our VR engine, but you can also use with Unity. You can use the very same VR system with Unity. Like pretty much, you can do anything.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the poll. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
Now, we've obviously covered just a small fraction of what is possible, and only some of the templates. The idea is to give you a taste. So you can be confident that there are many things, many points from which you can start. And then if you come for part 2, you'll learn about a little bit more about how to make things work.
Okay, then I'm going to show my screen here. I have a few more questions that I'll get to in a minute. I just wanted to share the slide that I had about attending a workshop. And you can see that we've held them in London, Paris, Toronto, Montreal, Washington, DC, Sweden. We have a couple coming up in the UK and Germany. So we'll reach out to you and the people who responded that you are. A lot of people responded that they were interested in a workshop. A 1 and 2 day workshops were the most popular in terms of attending, and then a few people want to host. So, all right, so let's go back to this question. Let me see if I have another slide here that I wanted to share with you. Yeah, let's go back to these last couple of questions here. I know we're like way over. Okay, so Aaliyah asked about, okay, for studies using the built-in hand tracking of the HMDs rather than the controllers, does the software allow for recording of metrics such as hand aperture, open, close state, etc.?
Yes, you can. You can record these. Like you get access to basically everything that that Meta provides. You can log it, right? So you can, for instance, like look at how close these fingers are. And...
Okay, and then Tangayo asked about, can the players move in the 360 images, or do they have to stay in one place to look around?
No, you can't move in those. It's basically all these 360 images and videos. They're taken from one point, and you're in that one point, right? So you're fixed, and right there's nowhere to navigate because there's only one viewpoint.
Okay. And is it possible, Deborah asks, is it possible to upload games or simulations into the BioPack system?
I'm not sure what it means to upload them into the BioPack system, but if you already have some sort of game and you want to synchronize with the physiological recording, there are different ways to do it. The simplest way is to actually capture your screen, whatever is shown on the screen, and then align that video inside the media window and acknowledge. So there's one way. But then you have to manually then go through the recording and make sense of it, like what happened when. If you want to have markers, then you need to actually come up. Then you need to have control over your game. So we can receive markers, right? And they can be received over the network, over a TCP/IP. So if you have access to modifying your game, we can receive markers. For example, when you shoot somebody, we can get a marker, and it's aligned with the physiological data. If you don't have any way of doing that, we can just capture. There's multiple options out there for capturing the video of the gameplay and then just linking it with the physiology.
Okay, this may be the last question from Colby. Last chance anyway for questions. Is the BioPack software compatible with third-party hand tracking gloves for people without Meta headsets?
Yeah, there's all sorts of peripheral devices. That's one of the advantages of this over using like a game engine. So there's support for all sorts of peripherals. So if you have specific peripherals you want to interface to, just ask us, and we'll let you know if it's working. Yep.
Great. All right, so let's move on my slides. I'll check back on the questions and see if anything else comes in. So I just want to let everybody know that we have live and on-demand webinars. We have live webinars almost monthly throughout the year. We take breaks, at the holidays and stuff. So our next webinar, part 2 of this series, is on February 8th. So Alex will be back, and he'll explain how to set up these experiments. That will be great. So go ahead and register for that. I believe we'll have an email going out about that, but you can always visit our website to get registered now. Let me show you that real quick. I wanted to show you a couple of things on the website, actually. So webinars page, here's part 2, and you can see we've offered over 100 webinars over the last several years. Lots of great information here, including other VR webinars. And also we have a VR resources page here, which I will chat this link out in just a sec. Alex has uploaded a bunch of different resources for you all to get started using VR. And I'll let you guys look at that at your leisure. And then let's see, let me go ahead and chat that, read that link out to you real quick. Okay, and then I just want to tell you, I know there's people from all over the world on this webinar, and you can scroll down on any page of our website and access your local sales representative. You can just click this button here, and then when you fill out this form, it immediately emails your representative. So that is a great way to reach out to us, and you'll hear back from them, you know, within a reasonable time frame. You can also, you know, reach out to our support department if you need any support. There's lots of tools and resources on the site. All right, let me just look and see. I don't think we had another question come in, but I'm going to double check. Just have to look. And yep, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so great. All right, well, thank you, Alex. That's a lot of information that you put together. Really appreciate all that work that you did.
Yeah, if we can quickly switch over to my screen for a second.
Sure, yep, no problem. Let me find you on here. And there you go.
All right. So I don't know if we showed this explicitly, but the system that we showed today is this system on our website. It's the VR eye track sys. Okay, we call it the complete VR eye tracking system, and you can get it into 1 or 2 user combinations. But as I mentioned, it's completely modular, right? So you can get 5 if you want, right? And it will just work. And then all this time I was connected to electrocardiogram recording wirelessly, and it just wanted to show you that the data about an hour and a half in is still looking really, really great. So yeah, that's hopefully, I mean, you know, you share our passion for gadgets, so figured people may appreciate that. Okay.
All right, Alex, thank you. And then I just wanted to say that today's webinar was recorded, and if you missed any part of it, you can go back and watch it. Also, I just want to remind you that the frame rate on the GoToWebinar tool is slower than what's in real life when you're actually in the virtual reality system. So things look a little bit jerky, but they're actually quite smooth, flawless in the environment when you're in that. We will email a link of the recording and the slides. When you close the webinar window, you'll see a survey. Please complete that so we have your feedback and ideas. And then, of course, if you visit biopack.com, you can access additional webinars, screencasts on specific features and analysis tools, application notes, step-by-step instructions, and information about upcoming events on our calendar. We'll be at APS in the spring and a bunch of other conferences all over the world. So come by and see us if you are in person at any of our events. Alex, anything else before we conclude?
Well, I hope to see some of you at workshops that we do, the ones that take place in Europe. I will be there. So, yeah.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Have a great rest of your day. This concludes today's webinar. Bye.
Bye.